Tuesday, CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Today marks the 20th anniversary of World AIDS Day. So years after the facts of AIDS are known, why does the stigma remain? Our medical correspondent Elizabeth Cohen is here now with that story. It's a good question.
It is a good question because you and I certainly remember the days of Ryan White, and the stigma of HIV and AIDS was so huge. And we talked to experts, has it gotten better? And they said, yes, it has, but it has still not improved as much as it should. 24-year-old Antoine Richard knows a thing or two about stigma.
I found out that I was HIV positive when it was around 2004. When my mother found out, it was just one of the reasons why she decided to put me out.
Richard was diagnosed at age 20, and the discrimination began almost immediately.
It just hurts me so much when I hear the things, you know, the stories about how people are constantly at their homes or how they have to go to work and they are, you know, made fun of, or they're fired from their jobs because they happen to be positive.
It's 2008, more than 25 years into the HIV/AIDS epidemic, and still, people who were infected are often unable to avoid the stigma that surrounds this disease.
It's a matter of pure ignorance. It's a matter of prejudice.
Frank Oldham is president and CEO of the National Association of People with AIDS. He says that prejudice is deeply rooted in the belief that AIDS is still a gay disease and the consequences can be fatal.
It acts as a barrier to people getting tested, getting their HIV test, knowing their HIV status, and getting into care and treatment because they're afraid to be identified as someone living with HIV/AIDS.
And for those who don't have the disease,
there is the fear of contagion, a simple fear of becoming infected by HIV and not really understanding or knowing ways in which the disease is transmitted.
Last year, a 3-year-old HIV-positive boy was banned from using a public swimming pool and shower in Alabama. A few weeks ago, students at a high school in St. Louis were ostracized when someone connected with their school tested positive for the disease. A survey by the MAC/AIDS Fund found more than 30% of Americans are uncomfortable working with someone with HIV or AIDS, and that includes healthcare professionals.
If the doctor claims he doesn't know how to treat them, they really don't want to treat them.
1 in 5 Americans with HIV doesn't even know he or she has the disease. When HIV is diagnosed late, the results can be deadly.
More than 40% of people who are diagnosed with HIV in the United States progress to full-blown AIDS within a year of their diagnosis.
Richard hopes to reduce that number by convincing others to get tested and seek the proper treatment. Now, because that stigma has not gone away, even after all these years, the Center for Disease Control does have a program to help ease that stigma. So maybe next year on World AIDS Day, we won't be talking about the same story.
Yeah, I hope not. Now, is that program, or are there other programs out there that are working on even more awareness? I don't know, in schools?
Yes, absolutely. You know who's been really active on this has been churches and communities where HIV is more prevalent. The first step, the first thing they're trying to do is just to get people to talk about it, because you know there's this saying that's been out there for a long time: silence equals death. Just talking about HIV is the first step, and sometimes it's hard to get people to do that.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, well, Elizabeth Cohen, should appreciate it. Thank you. In fact, there are 33.2 million people living with AIDS in the world today. More than 2 million of them are children. Just last year, as many as 2.5 million people became infected with the virus. 95% of the infected live in developing nations. Health officials urge people to remember to get tested.